Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And peace be with all everyone. This is Colin once again, and I'm making this video just as a commentary, an observation. I've seen that the user converted to Islam has left Islam, and I was really fascinated by not only his most recent videos, but also the responses that he's been getting. He posted a video where he basically said that he was having moral issues, moral ethical issues with defending Islam. There were things that he was finding in the Muslim sources that he found irreconcilable with his own views about morality, and he could not stand to defend it any longer. This video and his subsequent video about the Prophet Muhammad's marriage to Sophia has caused quite a debate here on YouTube. I remember watching Converted to Islam when I first became a Muslim and started making YouTube videos back in 2007. Didn't really watch him all the time. I certainly recognized the video, his most recent video. I recognized his face. I remember watching some of his videos, throughout the years. So I was pretty surprised because I know he had a pretty good base of followers, over 30,000 subscribers to his account. And I'm not surprised by the backlash or the praise or the criticism that he has received by various people on YouTube. I've also noticed that tons of people from all different persuasions have come out of the woodwork to comment on his video, and I guess I'm one of the people now who has come out of the woodwork, as it were. I've also noticed a trend that there are certain Muslim users who only have like 100 or so subscribers have made video responses which have boosted the number of hits, the number of views that they have into the thousands. So certainly this is a topic where people are watching his video, Converted to Islam. They're troubled by what they have seen, and then they are trying to find people here on the internet, and on YouTube in particular, who are responding to him and trying to refute him or to calm down the masses who may be freaking out over his apostasy. Now, I'm making this video because I'm always fascinated when people change religions, convert to a religion, leave a religion. I'm always curious what makes them do that, since I've had my own experience with joining a religion or religions and leaving religions, etc. And so I'm not too surprised by his reason. Converted to Islam has not claimed any issues with any sort of metaphysics, at least not yet, although I would not be surprised if that is coming down the road here. But the thing that got him is the morality. He has issues with stories he finds in the hadiths regarding the taking of captives, and what Muslim men are allowed to do to send captive women, for an example, versus in the Quran, which he finds problematic, and also the Sirah literature, particularly the life of Muhammad, the Sirah Rasulullah, the biography by Ibn Ishaq on the Prophet Muhammad. So he brings together a number of texts which he finds problematic. What I've discovered, and I just want to talk about the survey of responses, and just to comment on them because I find it really interesting. So, when one is faced with troubling text that one finds to be problematic, I found by watching Converted to Islam's most recent videos and some of the responses that have occurred because of his video, that there have been 4 major responses. Response number 1 is actually Converted to Islam's original response, which is you have a view of morality, you have a view of ethics, you have a view of what is right or wrong, you gather this foundation of morality from many sources. It could be anything from philosophy to psychology to ethics and virtues from multiple systems and sources. And then when you come across another system that is not in line with what you view to be morally correct or have the same ethical values, you start to then question or even argue against it. So in the context of religion, we have Converted to Islam questioning some of these texts, which has led him into this place where he is right now. The second thing that I'm seeing with problematic text, or the response to the text in particular, is the liberal response. And I'm not going to mention any users in particular. I mentioned these four. I mean, the only user I'm going to mention is Converted to Islam, but there are these four sources, or these four responses, if you will, actually come from videos which I have seen responding to his video. The second sort of position to take is the liberal progressive perspective. I saw one Muslim video in particular where the Muslim basically says, admits that religion shows the raw nature of things. So the good and the bad are in there. And, but for this particular Muslim, he doesn't want to attack Converted to Islam, but Islam has instilled upon him, this particular Muslim user, good values, to be a good person and to treat others kindly and not to, take interest in things like this. So that is essentially, and then this user also said that they had talked to other Muslims about some of these verses, and none of the Muslims he knew really knew about these verses or these passages, and if they did, they were kind of like, saying to this one Muslim, why are you questioning these things, etc. So you have sort of the liberal-leaning, progressive religious perspective, which is, yes, there could be admittedly problematic verses or ideas or concepts, but we're just going to focus on the positive ones. The third response that I've seen is the apologetic. This is probably the more common response, which is accusing Converted to Islam of being deceptive, of basically only picking out certain passages or certain things out of context, or going to sources which apparently the majority of Muslims don't actually recognize as being authentic. The best example of this would be Ibn Ishaq, where it is claimed by these apologists that no Muslim scholar takes Ibn Ishaq seriously. No Muslim scholar views Ibn Ishaq's sirah, or biography of the Prophet Muhammad, as authentic or authoritative. Of course, if one were to go through the English translation, as I have here, of the life of Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq, and you read the introduction, you find that it's actually not as clear-cut as that you actually have a number of scholars, and I would just reference, I may do a separate video on this subject if people want, but for example, starting in the introduction, that would be, I believe, 35. So starting at page 34 all the way to page, I think it's all the way up until almost page 40. You have in the introduction the variety of opinions on Ibn Ishaq. Some were very positive, claiming he was an excellent traditionalist, an excellent scholar. There were others that had personal grievances against him. The whole issue between him and Imam Malik is brought up as well, and to find that it was actually a personal issue, because according to the introduction, Ibn Ishaq questioned Malik's Arab ancestry. Malik took that very seriously and then started to condemn Ibn Ishaq, but then there's a story where later on in their lives they actually had a reconciliation. So so you have apologists who just say, no, these sources aren't authoritative, so therefore it is wrong for Converted to Islam to bring up these stories, even though you have it's not as black and white as, no one takes Ibn Ishaq seriously. People do take him seriously. There is a shades of gray in there, if you will. The fourth is just the outright dismissal of having an issue with the text that Converted to Islam has raised. This was represented by two Muslim YouTubers. The two that I mentioned, this is sort of in the category of the two gentlemen who only have about 100 subscribers, but then their videos have now exploded to about 14,000 views, just because I'm sure they're responding to Converted to Islam. These two individuals essentially just say, look, who are you to question God and the things that God decrees? Who are you to say that you have a problem with the morality or the ethics? One of the users went so far as to say that he had not actually studied the question of slavery or taking war booty or people as captives during warfare, but that he was sure the Converted to Islam was incorrect with his assertions, even though he admitted he had actually not studied the subject with any sort of length or clear foundation. But to say that even if it were true that that Islam allowed these particular actions, or that Allah allows Muslims to do these things, that it's Allah's decree, it's Allah's law, and so therefore, who are you as a human, as a finite human, to question the infinite? The other person who made the similar argument took more of made two parts, part one and part two. I only watched part one. Part two, the person seemed to bring out multiple books on the biography of Muhammad to make an argument. I didn't actually watch that whole video, but the first video, he takes the stance of basically saying, you know, look, you're taking your subjective reasoning, your own opinion about morality, and then you're saying, oh, because of my own opinion about morality, I therefore don't agree with the morality as presented by the Quran or the Hadiths or Islam, etc. So instead of actually dealing with the claims, it's falling back on this position of, well, who are you to question any of this stuff? So very fascinating to see what someone might consider to be problematic texts, and we're seeing the variety of responses, both Muslim and non-Muslim, in this sort of ongoing dialogue and debate. One of the users who is in that fourth category, the one who completely just went around the actual points made by Converted to Islam and just fell back on the, well, who are you to question this, made an interesting point, saying that perhaps Converted to Islam did not submit completely, and that there were things that he questioned even when he was a Muslim, because Converted to Islam admittedly says that even when he was a Muslim, he found it difficult to defend some of these particular assertions regarding some of these texts and the morality and the ethics. And so that brings me to the question of the psychology of converts, which I think are different from the psychology of those who are born into the religion. I can say from my own experience, and I was really meditating on this, I was really thinking, what is the common denominator between myself, Farhan Qureshi, and Converted to Islam, or Brother Ismail? Well, besides being converts and then people who have left the faith, all three of us also spent a lot of time defending Islam and debating people in our own fashion, whether in person or on the internet, writing articles, researching, being told by people who were born into Islam that we were doing more research than what the typical nominal Muslim does. And so, but another more important thing is that to convert to Sunni Islam, or to Islam in general, you're bringing in your own previous baggage, and and just knowing other converts to other faiths, sometimes it is not easy, nor do you ever fully discard the previous mentalities or opinions you had on certain topics when you join the new religion. That is just a psychological fact. That is just a fact of the experience of converts. Now, there are some converts, admittedly, who just, boom, they drop everything that they previously believed in or valued, and they just adopt wholesale whatever version of the religion they've been exposed to. Some go in and they kind of mold the religion, or at least, I want to say mold the religion, but they are attracted to certain concepts more so than others. They find different opinions on certain subjects that appeal to them within the framework of the religion. And then some really do actually try and mold the faith based on their opinions on certain subjects. Muslims who were born into the faith also do this as well, but I would argue that converts do this at a higher rate. Of course, I have no evidence for this based on concrete evidence. I'm basing this completely off of experience. But I started to really think about this, what this one Muslim said about Converted to Islam, that he did not submit completely. Well, that's an opinion. That's a subjective opinion based on Converted to Islam's own experience. But I wouldn't be surprised if he found it difficult as someone who was used to be a Christian or whatever he was prior, if he ran into this particular issue and couldn't find a way to get it out of his mind, or to find a way of crushing this for himself. And so, yes, perhaps he did not fully submit based on whatever that even means. I don't even know what that even means. I guess for this fourth position, It's that you just have to accept everything that's in the Quran and the Hadith without question. Don't question anything. You have to just accept it for what it is and do not question this sort of thing. But what I find with the experiences of people who end up leaving religions is that, yes, there are things that come up. There are doubts that come up. There are certain topics that just become too difficult for the person, for the individual to ignore. And this results in them questioning more and more until it unravels. And then they're left with the question of, how can I still call myself X, Y, and Z? And that is, I think, this would be my opinion on what has happened to Converted to Islam. And it's shocking, certainly, for a person who was part of the religion for 16 years, who had so many people. I can see where a lot of people are very uncomfortable with his recent apostasy. So I don't really have a huge point to this video, except that I just wanted to comment on what has been going on, what has been happening, and I'm really amazed to see the variety of responses that he has been getting from various people. So I look forward to seeing additional videos that are made responding to his videos, and I look forward to seeing the continued variation of responses. It is truly fascinating to have the privilege of being on the internet and seeing the psychology of religion at work and the psychology of humans. Thank you all for watching. Peace be with you all. Love is the law. Love under will.